Hello YouTube, welcome back to Star Citizen News for the 1st of the 3rd, 2020. Guys, we've got stuff to talk about today in relation to the latest Star Citizen Live episode, and some of the questions that were asked throughout the episode as well. And yeah, I think you're going to be interested in what people are actually now having to say. Anyway, welcome to the episode. Alright guys, so I'm CTT, you know me.
And I am Infantry Lead the Way, and let's get right into it.
Alright, so guys, we're just going to start off with the quick intro for the first minute or so of the video to kind of get you guys started. So,
everybody, welcome to another episode of Star Citizen Live, Adventures in Spaceships. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and joining us on the show this week for a discussion of all things related to the vehicle experience are members from our UK and Frankfurt studios, Richard Towler and Yogi Klatt. Richard, Yogi, how you doing, guys?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks.
Thanks, pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Now we don't often get to do a show from multiple studios at the same time, so we've got you up on the split screen here, and you're actually almost a little bit bigger than life size right now. as I look like, I mean, I've got a big head, and you guys are, I don't know, it's just usually.
Yeah, I've got a really big head. It's not good.
I have to special order my hats. That's why hats are such a trademark for mine, because I literally have to special order them online. I can't walk into a store and buy a hat. So it's also why I have neck problems.
Alright, who cares about Jared's neck problems? How does that affect him wearing a baseball cap? But anyway, let's just get moving along. Unless ILW, you got something to say about Jared's neck problems today.
Yeah, I don't know why they always carry on with this. You know, the episode, they only do it for an hour, and they cut it off usually right exactly after an hour. So skip all your neck problems, all the nonsense, and let's get right into the content, guy. I'm going to bring this up a little bit later, but they pay, it's like $60,000 a week the subscribers pay for this content from the subscription financials. So $60,000 a week, let's make it worth that. No nonsense. Let's go ahead.
All right, guys, so on to the next part.
Speaking of the speed, can you elaborate on high-speed combat? There's currently a card for high-speed combat on the roadmap. What's that entail?
Yeah, so it's probably no secret now, seeing as it was out on the forum the other week that we were basically... So it was basically some early experimentation that we were doing internally to change the speed of combat. So basically, we want combat to engage at a lower speed than it does now, because the higher speed that combat engages at, the worse the general experience gets. So we don't want to fake it and just and artificially force people to combat at lower speed. We want to look at the way that systems perform at high speed and how that would happen in the real universe. So we're looking at shields, and if you go faster, how does the shield react on the outside of the ship? And that would encourage players to engage in combat at lower speeds rather than higher speeds, where perhaps there's more risk of being taken out by an opponent. So it's just to kind of encourage that kind of closer engagement in combat, because we found that the experience in combat gets better if it's much closer and at a lower speed than high speed.
Okay, Yogi on the left of your screen, guys, is even going, what the fuck is this guy talking about? You'll find throughout this video, the guy on the right-hand side is a complete moron and just doesn't know about anything he's talking about. Yogi does slip up too in some parts as well. So, ILW, what's your take on the high-speed combat thing and the whole issue that we're dealing with, where you want things to slow down, I want things to speed up? My take is that we need to customize the game and develop the game in a way in which it suits everybody else's playstyle, not just one's. Yeah, I don't know. Where are you with this now?
I'm in the same place I've always been. I think we need to take... so it was all balanced around STM speed. We need to have a unified speed to do combat at, so we're not jousting, we're not reverse DPS racing, have really satisfying combat as they intended, either... have it all high. Let's just make it all high speed. Let's go to max. Let's make the STM speed, the combat speed, at 1,000 meters per second, and just be done with it. Or bring in a good system to bring it all back down to STM speed. It's too much in the middle. They don't want it in the middle. Nobody wants it in the middle. Let's come to a freaking conclusion and let's get it all fixed.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, because at the end of the day, we can't secede to both camps on that discussion. There has to be a little bit of effort put in by you guys, CIG, to actually program the game how every other programmer would program the game, and that is make fighter pilots fast and big heavy ships slow and clunky. Simple. Let's not try to say everyone goes at the same speed, because that's not immersive or creative or realistic by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, we are not entirely set what these things are going to be, but part of our process for the coming weeks is to do a lot of gameplay tests to figure out how these actually can work. So the DevOps team, they supported us greatly by allowing us to create an experimental gameplay system, so that we can easily just between us try out new gameplay builds and try and iterate on these kinds of small changes. And the high-speed combat changes that we have planned, we can then test and check if they work or not. So that's going to be a really exciting time soon.
So what these guys are literally just admitting to all of us now is that neither of these guys on your screen have ever actually played Star Citizen. Yeah? They're going to create a little sandbox just for them, so they feel special, so that they can play their own little version of Star Citizen aside from actually what is really happening in the Star Citizen sandbox right now. Excuse me? These guys developing, testing, and checking for quality on a weekly basis? Are the lies coming through the cracks finally in the CIG chink armor? Fuck me. Let's move on, ILW, unless you got something else to say about that. It's just, it's a constant contention of discussion, because they can't answer the bloody questions.
No, they just need to. They got internal builds, and if they need people to test it, say, hey, we're putting out a PTU, and we're going to be doing tests to our high-speed combat to try to balance it and get it right, because it's so wrong right now. Join, and that's all they got to do. They say they have all these tools to make all these tweaks to the ships and the thrusters, and they can change things so easy. Well, then why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it then?
Right, and they need their own little personal sandbox made up to test it. No, you just do it in the PU and see how it works, because that's the real game we're meant to be playing, isn't it? All right, moving on. All right.
I know what cat and mouse is. But...
It depends if it's a scaredy cat or not, right? Because I've seen some videos of rats and they can get quite aggressive.
One of the questions from the thread, we actually addressed it a couple weeks ago, but it got voted up again. Have you considered allowing wheeled ground vehicles to use the mouse scroll wheel for speed control? The fact that this keeps coming up and keeps getting voted up, there's a significant portion of people who are interested in this.
Yeah, so the difference with current ground vehicles is the current ground vehicles actually don't go very quickly, so it's not as critical. But we do have several improvements that we want to do with ground vehicles, and that's definitely something we consider. Because at the moment that the ground vehicles are kind of limited by the terrain and the current performance on that terrain, but we're looking at several improvements to the suspension system and the way the vehicle interacts with the environment to actually allow the ground vehicles to go faster. So we'll definitely kind of look at kind of having a certain speed limit around those vehicles.
Just spit it out, dickhead.
The same way that it works on the ships as well.
And
it makes sense in the term, in the gameplay sense, because we have the same scheme on an FPS that you select your mouse wheel to change your speed, and I see no reason why we couldn't do this on ground vehicles as well.
Okay, sorry to crack it, but this guy is making it up as he goes. He is flying by the seat of his pants. Yogi on the other side of the screen there is just looking down to the left and looking to the right and trying to actually make sense of what this guy's talking about as well. It's not just me, it's his own workmate who's sitting there just going, what are you talking about? Where are you getting this information from? ILW, what do you think of ground combat? Just the whole ground vehicles thing. I believe the Dragonfly and the Nox are the only logical choices for ground vehicles that, in the motorcycle discussion, which we'll come across later, are logical. But when it comes to the ground vehicles, accelerating, decelerating, I personally, if it's a keyboard situation where most people playing ground vehicles will either be on controller, like my Logitech, or the mouse and keyboard, I personally, because I'm a left-hander, I use right shift and 0 on the numpad to accelerate and decelerate, yeah? And then I got the down arrow for brake. How about you? How would you like the acceleration, deceleration to be on the wheel or not?
Well, you should be able to just rebind the keys to whatever you want. Here's the whole thing when it comes to driving the vehicle, the moving it up to speed. What he's talking about is not letting it because the suspension's not in place. I mean, does it really matter if the suspension's not in place? Give the players the option. If the player finds a nice little patch and he wants to go 1,000 meters per second in the freaking vehicle and it can get up to that, let him go that. Don't hold his hand and be worried, oh, well, we can't let Jimmy get it up to that because he might flip it over. If he flips it over, you knew what you were doing when you took that Ursa rover, which you know doesn't go over terrain all that well, up to that speed. You know, I think what they want to do with the suspension system is kind of doing like dune buggies. How if you've seen the modern ones, their suspension. I mean, these things can get up to 100 miles per hour in the dirt on rocky hills, and it's just going, and the suspension's just rocking. And they want to do something like that, but in the meantime, give the players the options now. Who cares if they flip the vehicle? I mean, get some skill. You know what I'm saying? Have some sense. Don't take it up if it's real crazy looking. Don't go so fast. It's too easy.
Didn't they already demo the Ursa rover with the sandworm video? Just saying. And showing how the suspension works? Just saying. What's wrong with the suspension with the Ursa rover all of a sudden? That's a good question, isn't it, people? Right. Yeah, we added that bit in because doesn't the Ursa rover already work? Why are they mucking around with it? It works. Okay, alright, so on to the next part of the video. Alright, guys.
A lot of questions about parking cameras or landing cameras. I know it's probably a vehicle feature thing as opposed to a vehicle experience thing, but do you have thoughts on parking cameras? I mean, like I said, we have them in cars now. You go in reverse and a camera comes on, you see it on your screen. Is that something you'd like to pursue? Is there a reason you'd be against it?
No. So as far as the development of the new cameras goes, we put the new cameras in for first and third person, and these are kind of like the first iterations of these new cameras for us. But also now we're looking at the future and we're going, actually, what features do we want to include now in the camera, going forward for future versions of it, and these can include kind of parking cameras where the camera moves, based on the landing pad or, the way you're landing, but also just general features, even for ground vehicles where, it's the way the camera moves when you're driving up hills. It doesn't work the same way it does for ships. So we've got to develop different systems on top of the current camera to kind of support different vehicles, and that can include different play styles and in terms of parking ships and parking ground vehicles and how it works with collisions, which is quite a complex problem to solve, which is one of the kind of key things we did the last year and the start of this year was looking how we can make the camera work within all the complex kind of landing zones we have, where if you're moving the camera somewhere, it can actually collide with various objects and various other ships, and it's how the camera deals with that collision so it still feels right, so it's not snapping or it isn't clipping objects. So we've got a lot of features planned for the camera going forward. We haven't,
Just stopping there. Once again, flying by the seat of his pants, making up as he goes. ILW, you take it away this time.
Okay. So obviously what he's talking about is, so when you go to the third-person camera, there's like a ghost camera that points at you and you can move it all around. He's talking about making that actually a drone, and like if you're like it would just pop off your ship, I guess, when you go to put it in when you go to hit the third person key, and like if you were walking outside, you could look up and you could see the camera go out and you could see what the pilot's looking at. Okay, that's all cool, but that's not what this question is asking for. If you've ever played Subnautica, Subnautica is a perfect example of what this player is asking for. In Subnautica, you have a big, huge submarine with 2 cameras on it. You have The top of the ship has a top camera, and the bottom of the ship has a bottom camera. And as the pilot, when you're in the seat, you can just switch your view. Instead of looking through the cockpit, you can instead look through the top camera. Instead of looking through the cockpit, you can look through the bottom camera. So you can just look through the bottom camera, move it around, see how close you are to the seafloor, see how close you are to the top surface. That's what these people. That's what we want. Okay, we want to be able to see, because we have these huge ships, and most of the time the terrain's uneven, and it's very easy when you're in this huge ship and you get this very limited view, like a caterpillar, for instance, to land the ship on an uneven surface. Just give us a small little camera down there, allow the pilot to look down into it, so we can see the ground and we can see our landing gear and we can see how we need to land. We can't do that right now. That's what we're asking for. We're not asking for drones to do the third-person camera, because I don't want to land in a third-person camera. I want a first-person camera, such as Subnautica. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just took the words out of my mouth about Subnautica. I'm playing Sub-Zero at the moment. It's awesome. Obviously, it's still early development. But even the Sea Truck has amazing visual, you can see where you're going, nutshell, yeah? Even the scanning room with your little, pods that fly around, your little drone pods. This is the thing. Why can't they just attach a pinhole camera to the bottom of the bloody craft and just go click? Oh, I can see where I'm landing. Why does it have to be a drone? Why does it have to be stupidly overcomplicated for such a minimalistic, simple freaking purpose that everybody's been asking for a very long time, and then you've got no problems about drones bumping into anything? The camera's on the freaking bottom of your ship. End of conversation. Use your brain, CIG, for Christ's sakes. Get rid of this pommy guy. He knows nothing about what he's talking about. He's just a complete moron. Common sense, CIG. Just use a little tiny bit of it. Moving forward. Okay.
Nope. Yeah, I think it's buried dark down there, the experience, I think, after that.
Okay.
All right, another turret question here. Auto gimbal. Auto gimbal has been, in this person's opinion, a huge positive to the game. As much as others may want an extremely high skill curve, and I don't particularly mind having one from this. I'm reading for this question. Combat was an absolute workout, not only on your body but your equipment as well. Auto gimbal helps address this. How will you guys address fixed weapons, as I feel currently it won't be as enjoyable due to the extremely high aim requirements when using them?
Okay, that is a long question.
Yeah, I think I can shorten it up to, what are you doing to help fixed weapons?
So the same as before. We have a plan. We have a couple of strategies laid out, but we cannot really tell at the moment what the exact results or the implementations on solutions for that will be. We are aware that fixed weapons are not like, especially in the PvP context, are not like competitive. Oh, sorry.
I'll allow it.
But like, we should have a good picture how to fix those over the next couple of months. Including that, like, we're currently investing a little bit more into analysis tools, so we can trace back exactly how ships fly and how bullets and missiles fly around and what kind of motions they do. So that should help us to figure out what kind of like approach we take.
Okay. What did you just hear? What did you, in there in the camera on the other side of YouTube, hi, how you going, you hear just then? I heard absolute and utter dog shit, and no way, in any way, did they answer any question at any stage about anything in relation to the question asked. Are we going to fix weapons? No. We're going to give you some crap. And I'm going to make this sound good, but yeah, in time we'll get to it. ILW?
I don't know why it has to be a secret. As I said, $60,000 a week. Just answer the question, man. Just at least say, hey, this is what we're thinking about. I know me and CTT are going to disagree, but I believe that fixed weapons aren't viable. You can't use them like I can just use a gimbal weapons on my Constellation, and I can just fly in reverse, and all I need to do is point weapons to target to hit. I don't have to do any aiming. I just fly in reverse like a claymore, front towards enemy, keep the enemy in the sights. It automatically locks on. It automatically fires. It's way too overpowered, and because of that, very few skilled pilots use fixed weapons on the high end. It's now gimbals only. Gimbal is the meta. I wish they would address it. Either just address it in some way, man. It needs to be addressed. Everybody asking about it. I don't know why they keep dodging.
Okay. Gimbal is for big ships. Gimbal is for Aurora players. Gimbal is for people that don't know how to really play Star Citizen yet. Fixed weapons are for us advanced fighter pilots, people with skills, people with experience, people who have the muscle memory of playing with 2 sticks or even 1 stick and a HOTAS. Yeah? Even if you're going to go crazy and get flight pedals, I did look at some recently, and we might be doing a tech video up when I get my set eventually to, run you through it and why I bought them. But yeah, the aggravation in this is if you are an advanced pilot, you will fly fixed because you know where your target is heading and exactly where to shoot. Gimbal actually takes away from that accuracy for advanced pilots who like fixed weapons. I fly my Sabre with 4 Panthers. They're not gimbaled, they are fixed, and I'm extremely accurate, or used to be, with the old flight engine. I'm extremely accurate where I was hitting my targets without question and taking them out very quickly. Keep in mind, the Sabre is a hit-and-run craft, and even back then, I was taking out ships very quickly and still being able to get away out of the fight very quickly to come back and re-target a new target and then hone in and take them out. For those who want gimbaled, I understand. You're either learning Star Citizen and you want that skill curve to be dropped, the ceiling of skills to be dropped for you until you feel like getting into real serious territory of competitive play, especially for PvP. Though, and another craft like, like a Javelin, obviously that's going to need gimbaled weapons, especially on the turrets. You're going to need that help. On a Constellation or on a Freelancer or a Starfarer, I don't think Starfarers really have much in the way of weapons, but, the bigger ships, the Polaris, for example, the Carrack, they're going to need, obviously, some type of aim assist and supportive aim to actually hit a target. Otherwise, you are literally playing in impossible territory. But when it comes to fighter craft, when it comes to medium-sized craft, you should have the choice of being able to gimbal or fix. Especially if you're a larger ship like a Freelancer or a Constellation taking on another Freelancer or a Constellation or something bigger, you should have the right to be able to choose between fixed or gimbaled. We used to be able to have it. It was perfect. And some people used to play fixed and gimbaled. They'd fix their gimbals or unlock their gimbals. Yeah, we shouldn't be pigeonholed into only having one outfit on our craft we never have before. Why do we need it now? So for me personally as a fighter pilot, I just find that extremely aggravating. The fact they don't have a clue of what they're talking about when it comes to fixed. Fixed is so much more simple. Because think about it. You attach it. Yeah, obviously it's a mini model I'm working with here on a mini screen. Alright? But you attach. That's all you do. You don't have to have gimbals and pucks and auto rotation and aim assist and SCM and all that other stuff kick in. You just attach. And you point your ship at the thing and you shoot it. What's so hard about implementing fixed weaponry now? Sorry, but you're making, I don't know, this look like ancient Gaelic or something from Scotland, and you're deciphering a language. No, you're just sticking stuff on a ship and having it not move. It's simpler than gimbling stuff. Use your brain, CIG. Get rid of these muppets you keep employing. The kids. Bring some fucking adults on finally.
Well, before we move on.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about, it's not. It's bringing the gimbal. It's bringing the fixed weapons in line with the gimbals, because even a fixed weapon pilot as skilled as you, you would have a very hard time against a gimbal pilot who's not even as skilled, because our time on target, our rounds on target, they're not going to be matched. My rounds on target will be double, triple yours, because my weapon is automatically my weapons are all gimbaled and they all track to you, where you have to hit the sticks and aim, and you have to adjust. Earlier he talked about it was almost like a workout, keeping the weapons on target, and that's true in a lot of ways. It takes a lot of skill to keep the weapons on target. With gimbals, it doesn't. I just have to move the stick, keep my front towards the enemy, and my weapons will automatically track to hit you. And they're talking about bringing the fixed weapons in line with that. I think they should. I think if they're going to keep gimbals assist as is, they should add a gimbal assist to fixed weapons, very, very small, not like a gimbal weapon, but a very, very small cone where it adjusts, it fires, and maybe the gun is on the mount and it pivots just ever so slightly, not at the full rotation of a gimbal, but maybe just a small pivot just to move to give it a small assist to have players use fixed. Because the reality is, CTT is fixed weapons are sitting in storage collecting dust, and everybody is using the gimbal meta. That's what the reality is. They need to get away from that. They need to give real answers to it. They need to not just say, we're not going to answer that because we're going to come back to it. Just give us an answer of what the plan is. You know what the plan is. Come on, stop freaking pretending. You're on the vehicle experience. You know what the current thought is. It may not be what's implemented, but you know what the thought is. Just tell us, man. Yeah. Tell us that you're working on it. Don't just avoid the question. Jesus.
And that's the thing. It's such a simplified question. Like, okay, the reason why gimbals come up, because gimbal minimizes the skill curve. It gets the most amount of players in early, and it stops people from actually learning how to play Star Citizen, and that's really sad. None of us long-term backers came in and got our hand held and our you-know-what held for us while we went to the tot-tot, okay? We got in there and we got our asses kicked again and again and again until we learnt how to play the game. Now, this is the whole immersive thing, the whole actual real game experience, what we've paid for, we're no longer getting. It's being dumbed down for little kiddies to play, because little kiddies don't have the attention span or the patience or the motor skills to be able to train themselves to play the game properly. They want to make this game a mouse and keyboard game, as I keep saying, ILW, and they want to have it for everyone, all these kids, all these casual players to come in, just like on the mobile games on your mobile phone, and play casually and come and go as they please, but still keep spending money by buying more ships. Not how Star Citizen will work out. People will buy an Aurora, have no chance of getting any further forward progress in the game until they actually buy a ship, realise this, and then just quit. They've spent their money, they're $40 odd, $47 I think it is at the moment, up from $43 by the way, to play the game for a little while, just like when EVE Online went free. And then you actually had to spend real money to actually have a half-decent ship just to start with, let alone all the other stuff in EVE that's a nightmare, technically speaking. So then you've got those issues to worry about. Then you've got a far majority of serious players, real players, the people that actually join Star Citizen and will in future for the challenge, having that forcefully taken away from them because we want to baby this so we can make more money. Well, the best way to make more money? Fix your reputation up, get your project completed, stop your political bullcrap, stop lying, and stop cheating us out of the product we were initially promised. That's called reputation repair. You actually repair your reputation. You actually get rid of most of the kids in your offices now and put some adults in there who know what they're actually doing from industry, and you get the product actually finished and polished in the next 3 years. I'm being generous now, guys. 3 years instead of 7. Okay? Get it done. Get it finished. Stop making these crap excuses for no reason at all. Fixed weapons are simpler than gimbaled. So So, what is the actual problem? There is no problem. The problem is they don't want to make the game competitive. They want to have it as simple and baby-like as possible, and simplify it so much that it becomes basically a glorified online game that is, played by casual kids on a weekend. But they all spend their $45 or $47, right? So it adds up over 50 million people. 50 million people aren't going to buy this game at any stage. This is a very niche product, and it's been so niched out and so terribly managed on the PR side of things and public element of business side of things and development company side of things and Forbes that the only way Star Citizen has any chance of recovering from this is get finished immediately, shock all of the naysayers, right? I'm a skeptic, not a naysayer. And shock all the naysayers, shock all the shills, and go, oh, geez, we got a game finally. Oh, it's not what we wanted, but it's still a game. So how about we look back at that 88% and 4% or 7% when we did the original vote to make Star Citizen what it is now, and we look back and go, hey, how about we do another vote, right, on the development to every single backer and ask for a re-vote on the decisions people made back in the day. I promise you, it will be a polar opposite. Do we continue developing, or do we just release the game as it is and chuck in whatever else we can for now and build up on it later? 99.8% are going to say finish it now. Stop running off in the clouds with this. Get the game completed. ILW, would you agree with that? The general consensus of the audience these days?
It's a hard one. Because I disagree. I like all the crazy new features that they keep adding. So, I want the, yeah, I know. So, the actor status system, they had talked about it a little bit, but what I had concepted in the past is nowhere near the level of detail that it is now. So, I just say, hey man, keep shooting for the stars. When I backed Star Citizen, it was for the project to shoot for the stars. I hope they continue to do so. So I would say I would rather wait another 3 years for it to go into beta than for it to go into beta 6 months from now. But that's where I stand.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. 3 years beta. And it's actually a fully developed out game. All the star systems, all the solar systems, all the aliens, the whole bit is in it in 3 years. And it's an actual beta for final polish testing with maybe a 2-year beta cycle. That's fine. That gets us close to the 5 instead of 7-year mark as well. And then I think people would be much more willing to brush the cobwebs off and come back.
I, as an optimist, I'm hoping 8 systems in 3 years will be released. I think they'll release 1 this year, and I think from their tools, from what they've said, at face value, from what they've said, they're building the tools to build it faster, and I'm hoping for 8 systems. And I think what they've said themselves is like a dozen or so systems, more than a dozen or so more than a dozen systems. 3 years from now is what they project. I'm shooting low at 8 systems. Hopefully it's not nothing like 4 systems in 3 years from now. That's probably what it'll be, but let's be optimists. Let's be hopeful. If nothing else, let's continue on, CTT.
Yep. Okay, so here's the next part of the video.
Yeah, the next question is actually about aerodynamic effects. It says currently certain aerodynamic effects don't have a significant impact on players. For example, the maximum airspeed a ship can reach in a dive is nearly equivalent to the maximum airspeed in a climb. What steps are being taken to iterate the aerodynamic flight model and make it closer to what players expect?
Yep. So moving forward, like I've just said, with the aerodynamics is we're making the ships depend much more on the real aerodynamics of the ship. So that's the fundamental way the ship is shaped. So we've got fighters that look like jet planes, and they're going to fly more like a jet plane. It isn't going to be a jet plane because the ships still have thrusters, so they're still going to behave differently. But it's going to be drastically different to kind of the flight we have now on planets. And then obviously the challenge with that is balancing the ships based on the way they look You know, we've got loads of different shapes of ship in the game, and the way they're shaped is going to fundamentally change their character in atmosphere.
What?
So we're kind of excited to get that change out there.
We've been hearing some version of that for a while now. That's been a common refrain. We've always said we want
What?
we want ships to behave differently in atmosphere than they do in flight. Do you feel like, I don't want you to put a date on it. No dates here. But do you feel like we're in a place to actually make some progress on that this year?
So I played a prototype from David, and it's really amazing. I mean, it's still easy to fly. Like hovering is still quite easy for a player, but the characteristics of the ships, they come into play once you go above a certain speed. Then all the aerodynamics kick in, and then it's like each ship has like a certain character that you need to learn to control.
Okay, that's a load of shit. Absolute load of shit. So, when we get into a later part of this video, which is in just a moment in the next part of the video itself, these guys will contradict everything they've just said, okay? A Sabre is a fighter jet. Let's just keep that in mind, guys, okay? It's a fighter jet that can fly in atmosphere as well as it can in space. Keep that in mind. Let's move forward.
Wait.
Oh, really? Okay, go for it.
Yeah, we gotta wait.
Oh,
So
my aggro meter's going through the roof.
I know we're ready to move forward, but we gotta hold on just a second.
Yeah.
So here's the whole thing about aerodynamics is, as the game was created, when it was for the first 3 years of development, we weren't thinking of, as they developed these ships and they made these concept cells and they built them, they didn't think of actually putting real components in them. That's why everything had to be redesigned. They didn't think of these ships actually going into the atmosphere and having an atmospheric flight model bear down on them. They wasn't built for that. That wasn't even imagined at the time that they were built. They didn't go to the concept artists and say, hey, make sure that these things can fly well with the atmospheric flight model. It wasn't done like that. If you look at most of the old designs, the older ships, they're not aerodynamic, where all the new ships are aerodynamic. So what they just needed to do is they need to go back and redesign it and say, hey, we're going into an atmospheric flight model where every single ship has to fly with an atmospheric flight model and have aerodynamics to it, and we need to add some stuff to these ships to bring them up to that speed. We need to give the wings to the Aurora and several other type things. And what he said was pure nonsense, where at a certain speed, you'll start to feel the aerodynamics. Why aren't you feeling the aerodynamics in an atmosphere at every speed? I would think that if I had a spaceship and I cut it down to 0 miles per, and I went 0 kilometers per second with it, it would start to drop. Currently, that's not how the behavior behaves. There's like a hover, but let's have a realistic. Let's not play like these little tiny baby thrusters are enough to keep the atmosphere, keep the ship from nosediving. Ships don't nosedive. It's all nonsense as it right now. They didn't design it for this, and now they're trying to shoehorn a system they didn't design it for in, and they're coming up with all these issues, which they're going to have. The only way to do it proper is to redesign the ships for atmospheric flight. Redesign them for it.
Yep. An Aurora can't actually fly in atmosphere. It can't. It just can't. It's a brick. It's literally a brick with some chunks chopped off the front of it. Yeah.
Literally a brick.
Won't fly in atmosphere. A hammerhead will not fly in that atmosphere unless it has some pretty fat bloody thrusters underneath it. Same with anything. A Polaris might look like it can fly. No, it can't fly in atmosphere. It doesn't. No. Yeah, Gladius, yes. And we'll come to that bit in a second, and I'm just going to lose my mind. But anyway, A Gladius, a Saber Raven, even an Avenger, I reckon, could quite comfortably fly with maybe a little bit of a nose tilt, you know, pushing the arse into the wind. Or the Cutlass Black, definitely not. That's another brick. Constellation, no. Les, once again, has a shit ton of massive thrusters. Same with a Endeavour, same with a Constellation or a Starfarer. Bricks, and big frickin' and frick-off bricks. Okay, if you want to actually use your brains, guys, at CIG this is, remember, if it looks like a jet, it'll fly like a jet. That's called Aerodynamics 101. If it looks like a brick, it's gonna not just do shit. Okay? Alright, let's just go to this next bit, because... I'm sorry, but
Go ahead.
I've had a gut full of these fucking morons this episode. Anyway, alright, 43, 30. Okay, here we go, guys. You're going to love this bit.
With aerodynamics playing a big role in handling, should we expect to see things like flaps or panels to help slow ships, as opposed to just things like the space brake?
That's an interesting question.
No, it's not.
Atmosphere, yes, right.
Yes.
So essentially, if you're going forward a lot and you actually manage to like just let's say you fly Gladius and then you just really harshly pull up and you just expose the whole surface of the ship against the wind, you will slow down a lot.
It's called stalling, fuckwit. You can't. What? Right, okay. Let's think about atmosphere. Atmosphere is a bunch of gas, right? It's not just air. Air is gas. Now, you can press enough of that gas against a flat surface which has little panels stuck on it, okay? What's going to happen? Well, you're going to put friction and atmospheric pressure against those panels. And when we're talking about physics 101 again, you're going to rip that shit off, okay? And then you're going to have a really nice air conditioning system through your ass of your ship, which is fantastic for the short term until you take off to space and you, I don't know, die. But more to the point, you're stalling a ship. You're going to damage that ship pulling 8G turns. You're going to rip the back end of your ship off. You're going to rip your thrusters out of the back, that's for sure. And let alone your, actual main thruster engines. Let alone cause astronomical damage to any wings that you may have. Now, anyone who knows anything about aerodynamic design, or I don't know, just common fucking sense, would clearly know at this stage that's a really bad idea to do that in my ship, because if you do that in an FA-18 fighter, guess what happens to the FA-18? Well, there's no FA-18 left. Okay? Because gravity, friction, and atmospheric pressure, and just common sense demonstrate. Ship flies like so. Saber flies like so. Saber or Gladius fly like so. You're going to rip the arse end out of the fucking thing. These guys are fucking completely useless. These are the guys developing Star Citizen. Is my case yet rested, folks? ILW, please, your turn.
I mean, there's nothing to say. Just there's nothing to say. Just go ahead and go to the next part. Let's go to the next part. Let's go.
All right. Okay, we got to that bit. Let's go to 44 minutes, guys. We'll just go from here.
So, yes.
And have you started working on the vehicle experience for the Ranger yet? And if you have or haven't, how hard do you expect that to be?
So we haven't started yet. But yeah, it's got its own unique challenges. But that's the same as anything in the game. It's it's always a challenge getting that right feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that just happened. Yeah.
Okay, I know who this question. I don't actually have the names for people, but sometimes you can just tell. Currently, 31 of 36 fighters this person has tested have higher retro thrust than maneuvering thrust, even though most retro thrusters aren't visibly larger than maneuvering thrusters. And some of these ships don't even have dedicated retro thrusters to begin with. Why are the ships like this, and do we expect changes in the future?
Yeah, so the reason why ships are like this is the ships have very fast acceleration on the y-axis, so you can go very quickly. But if we made it that the size of the thruster defined the actual thrust itself, some of the retro thrusters you would take a long time to slow down. So the ship would move very quickly in a straight line going forwards, and it'd roll quickly. Its rotations would be very quick, but it would feel terrible trying to slow down. So it'd feel really strange. It's part of the kind of overall balance we're looking for, is to have ships that can actually slow down as fast as we want to. But it depends on the type of ship as well. I mean, we've got some ships like the Hammerhead, for example, that has its 2 retros at the front, and that does actually take quite a long time to slow down. But then you've got fighters which have kind of maneuverable thrusters as well as the fixed thrusters that can help slow it down. But it's just like a car. It's kind of the opposite, really. So with a car, you have acceleration up to a certain speed, but it can slow down almost 4 times quicker than it can accelerate, for example.
Because it's on the fucking road, you fucktard.
So obviously we don't want that with the ships, but that's kind of one of the feelings behind it, is we don't want ships to feel like they take forever to slow down. Yeah. Because it'd be really hard to engage
ships,
at that point.
Like planes, like fucking
swing the ship around and
things that fly.
Slow down with your mains, but that's not something we really want the players to have to do to slow down.
Yeah, I'd also say that the idea that the retro thrusters have to be larger in order to counter the forward momentum is a bit of a fallacy. It's the size of them is not something that's bigger is not automatically more powerful.
Really? Bigger is bigger. Bigger means more. Bigger means more powerful. Anything that's bigger has got more shit in it. Yeah? Okay, put it this way. It's like having this little screwdriver or having a big one with a big long part on the end called a shaft. Yes, ladies, a shaft, which has more leverage, more leverageable length to the actual shaft to unscrew the actual screw. Yeah? But if you try a snub-nosed screwdriver with a very tight screwed-in screw, you're going to have a much harder time using your leverage. Yeah? So, smaller is not better. Bigger is better. Yes? Great. I hope that was a great lesson for all you CIG staff who don't understand the basics of basic leverage and common sense using thrust or physical anything to get something to stop. It's a fucking flying thing. It's not a car. Where's the fucking friction? You're going to use the atmosphere as friction and what? Catch it on fire. Yes, dickheads. Or you're going to, implode the front of your spacecraft because there's an invisible thruster wall there. Okay? Everything has structural integrity. A car is designed to put most of that force and pressure load on the braking system and the tyres. Not the engine.
Which are touching the ground and has stopped using friction. Oh, the tires, friction to stop. Oh, the brakes hitting the
wow.
Friction.
Right? Mind-blowing. Hey, CIG.
So, let me say this. Bigger is not better. So, let's actually use rocket science. And CTT, I think you need to spend some time with your wife after this, man, with the ladies and all that. Think about a rocket ship sitting on a pad ready to take off into space. All right, so bigger is it better? So are you saying that if we reduced all the thrusters on the ship about to take off by half, it would fly better? It would fly the same? What do you? We're talking about thrusters that put out flames that propel things the other direction. How does something that's smaller work better than something that's bigger?
Just doesn't.
Oh wait, you can put more on them. But if you have 8 little all small thrusters versus a huge big one, it still works better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, guy?
Yeah. Right. Bigger's better. Works. Just learn something about basic physics, propulsion mechanics. You write super complicated code for a game. You have to have the IQ to do that little bit of research to understand physics and understand propulsion and understand gravitational force and Gravity! Sorry. Anger management sessions. They haven't been working very well, as you can see. Guys, that's it. That's it for the episode. Let's go back to the newsroom. All right, mate. So, wrap up on the episode. Give me your two, Bob.
Well, okay. Overall, I think the episode was great.
Yeah.
And this is why I have to say it, because they answered in these. So there was a lot of questions that weren't really good, and they kind of did the real questions in a weird way. They started from the top and worked their way down, which, I mean, I guess you could argue for, but we had very similar questions spaced 10 minutes apart. You had a question about aerodynamics at the 30-minute mark in the video, and then you had a question about in the atmosphere, and then you had a question about flaps at 40 minutes in the episode, with other questions irrelevant to that into the end. They could have daisy-chained relevant questions together, because, you know, as I said, $6,000 a week budget, I would think they would take the minimum time effort. And not included into the video was the very first and most upvoted question, which I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't answered. You know, I would think for a budget like that, you could find that you say, okay, man, you know, this isn't relevant to this discussion, but it's the most upvoted question. We're going to go ahead and answer it for you because $3 million are paid by subscriber money a year. I feel like for $3 million, we can answer your questions. So go ahead. I mean, that's the gist of what I feel. I'm really happy that it's not bobbleheads and that it's not garbage, and that the questions are what backers want to hear, and it's a Star Citizen Live with really good informative stuff. I mean, I think that's what I think. You know, we don't want to. We want to hear stuff like this, big questions answered, more than we want to see people design ships or you know, mockingly, jokingly design bobbleheads. Nobody wants that. This is what we want, and we were critical, but thankful for CIG for giving us this to be critical of versus the bobbleheads, which is just critical of the whole thing.
So yeah, guys, look, all in all, it is fantastic to see you guys coming forward with more questions, more serious questions, and pushing the status quo. This is what we've been asking you guys to do, and you're doing it. Fantastic. You know, thank you so much for helping us help you guys. These complaints need to now accelerate and become more serious, and these questions be asked again and again and again now until we're getting these answers we deserve. And that's it. Push the subject, guys. We're the ones that are the major stakeholders in this. We push enough, they have to secede to our needs. It's just how it works. So, guys, look, I'm so very appreciative of those of you who have listened and passed the word around, because as we're talking about doing these episodes, we are also having these guys now turn around 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and they're starting to talk about what we've just talked about. So if you actually watch our last couple of videos, the Star Citizen News, which was split into 2 different episodes, you'll see in the second half of that episode that we were talking about extreme sports as well as racing, as well as all of that. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, if that, they're now talking about racing as being brought up because a backer asked the question. Yeah? Guys, please keep asking the questions. Don't stop. Keep pushing. Get to a point where it is so overwhelming, like the acceleration on the mouse, yeah? Or deceleration on the mouse. That is something a lot of people want to know about, not just a small group. And this is something I want to bring up with you guys too. I found this really, really aggravating, to say the least, but I wanted to show you guys of what other backers are thinking in the comments of other YouTubers' videos on this exact subject matter about Jared Huckabee. Now, I say I hate the guy because, well, I do. I think he's a douche, right? But I want you guys to see for yourself what other people are saying about Jared Huckabee as well. And these aren't people I've put up to it, aren't people ILW have put up to it. This is on a complete different YouTuber's channel. It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with ILW, but just to demonstrate to you, right? I'll just bring it up for you now. Here we go. Okay. This is about Jared Huckabee. If you want to go to Board Gamer's video and actually have a look at this, you are more than welcome to. He always sounds like he is taking a kindergarten class. Not sure if he thinks the core fans are 11-year-olds or if that's just the way he normally talks. Clarification, CIG, thanks. If Jared spent less time talking condescendingly to the backers, then maybe we would have more content in the show. Right, if you guys notice, we chopped out a big chunk of the episode there. Because why? Because Jared just couldn't shut up about himself. Who cares about your sore neck? If you've got a bad neck, go get some surgery. Or, I don't know, get on some of the painkillers like Michael Jackson got onto, you big rich prick, yeah? Who cares about your bloody personal problems? We do care about your mental problems, that's for sure. Right, guys, the majority of backers are starting to turn on Jared. Those of you that support Jared, good for you. ILW, good for you, brother. But for me personally, I think Jared Huckabee is a hack. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. You guys have to see that Star Citizen is on hold. You have to see that Star Citizen developers don't care about you. Jared Huckabee doesn't care about you at all. He thinks you are a bunch of 11-year-olds. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually show you the actual screenshot on the screen. I just read out what I read out to you because I wanted you guys to hear. If you want, go through Board Gamers' video on Star Citizen Live and find those comments in the comment section yourself. Either like them or you know, put in a comment yourself to add your own to Bob. But I'm not going to sell out other participants on YouTube who are also en masse agreeing with us and myself specifically in relation to the misbehaviour of people like Jared who think they're someone. He's just a PR guy, guys. He's no one else in the company. He doesn't do any actually important work. He just speaks to us like condescending children. And what? I don't know. I believe that CIG needs a bit of a refresh, a bit of a restructure, management-wise, internally, PR, marketing, and they need to get rid of these old faces and replace them with new people who actually do care and are actually good with people instead of just this. ILW, what's your final wrap-up?
Well, I think I've said everything I need to say. And I agree about Jared Huckabee. He needs to be a little bit more respectful and stop being so condescending. You know, if you're a public relations and you're a community manager, don't talk so condescending. I wanted to include it in the video. It didn't get included, but you can go back through it and you can see the comments. And it's like, oh, man, this guy really is condescending and he's really rude with it. You don't need to do all that. Just be professional. We see what you can do. We talk you up when you do right. We talk you down when you do bad. Nobody wants to talk you down. We only want to talk you up. It's you making us talk you down because of the way you're acting.
Yep. And you asked me to have some faith in Jared Huckabee. Well, my faith is already failed from one of our last videos, right? You asked me to have some faith. On the very rare occasion Jared was actually professional. And then very next week we get this.
Yep.
Sorry, IW, but Jared Huckabee is a sociopath and I hate him. Okay. All right, you got anything else to add?
No, I'm good to wrap it up.
Fantastic. Guys, as per usual and as per always, peace out. Cheers.
Yep.